Okay. Tanya, can you go to my blog page and just check if it's live casting? How's your teapot?
Oh, I wanted to, if you wanted to use it as good live.
Sure.
You know what it is, right?
Yeah. 3D printed. Very high res.
Yeah. Did you make it? Someone in the it.
Isn't that neat? It's 3D printed.
We have a maker bot here. Just show us the tables on.
Okay. There we go. There we go. All right, so according to my very precisely calibrated watch, which is about 5 seconds ahead of the DHS clock, I've got 3 o'clock into 1 right now. So I'll get started. How is everybody? Hope you're enjoying your day. I'm doing well. I'm James. I'm a teacher at DHS. You know, I'm getting ahead of myself. Beaconsfield High School. I'm going to talk about redefining your classroom with Google Apps for Education. So this is doing things that you can't do without technology, doing things that are impossible without the support of having Google Apps for Education in a one-to-one classroom. So if my clicker is going to work, I can go to the next slide. We'll see. No, I should be able to figure it out. There we go. So I'm live streaming the event on YouTube and on my blog. I've never done it before, so hopefully I have my fingers crossed that it's actually working. I have no idea if it is. It is excellent. Okay. So that's something I'm trying to redefine what I'm doing as well. So I look at this as an opportunity to learn, as an opportunity to try new things, and as an opportunity to make mistakes and grow from it. So goo.gl/8yagdd, or it's also on my blog page, which is openlessons.blogspot.com. You can tweet GAFE Summit. I'll be tweeting during this hour. Well, my computer will be tweeting what I've asked it to tweet at certain times. I can't multitask that, so I set everything up ahead of time so that I'm prepared. So I'm going to talk a little bit about who I am, where I come from, and how I got here. So I'm a teacher at Beaconsfield High School. I teach English language arts, history, geography, and mathematics. But really my passion, my true education love is math. I'm completely math nerd. I'm a father. I have 2 daughters. Rose is 7, and June will be turning 4 on Monday. I'm a maker, so I like to create things. I play with electronics. I tinker with my car. I renovate. I build furniture. I take technology apart and see if I can make it work better. I can't leave things alone, and I can't leave things in the box. I have to open them up and play with them. Yeah, exactly. I'm also a nerd and a geek, and I'm known as that tall guy in the tie. That is what students have actually called me. Oh, you're that tall guy in the tie. Yeah, that's me. So that's who I am. I want to talk a little bit about what I'm about. I'm about sharing, and not in the sense that you can have half my lunch, but in the sense of everything that I create, everything that I do, everything that I implement in my classroom, I publish. I want you to have it. I want you to take it. I want you to change it, make it your own. Really, what I'd love for you to do is share that as well. But if you don't want to, that's fine as well. I'm about publishing. Like I said, if I'm not publishing, I'm not sharing. And I'm about open source, which is the idea that you can take this, you can tweak it, you can change it. You're allowed to make whatever differences you want in order to suit yourself. So in, on my site here, it's on my blog. So in the spirit of open source, feel free to tweet it out, share it. You can video me if you want. You can take pictures. You can share those. And if you want to just sit and listen, that's fine too. How did I get here from where I started? Well, I started a degree in computer science and mathematics right after high school, and that made me very unhappy. I did not like sitting behind a piece of paper and a pencil or a computer screen, and I didn't want to spend the rest of my life solving somebody else's problems. So I quit. I didn't finish the degree. I stopped. I said, this is not for me. This is not what I want to do with my life. And I went and I trained as a wilderness guide. So I went from one side to the other. And I liked that. It was a lot of fun. But then I wanted a family. And I decided I don't want to spend every single holiday as my busy time. I want to spend time with my family. I don't want to work every Christmas, every holiday. So then I went and I got a degree in early childhood and elementary education. And in true spirit of who I am, I did it and then I adjusted and I decided, you know what, I like high school better. I fit better in high school. So I do a lot of things and then I reflect on it and I try to improve it. And I continued studying math. I'm still very active in learning math. But that's not all the education I've had. I've had a lot of informal education as well. I've studied electrical engineering and circuit design as being a maker. I want to know how electronics work so that I can build with them. I need to know electrical theory. I'm a voracious reader of fiction and informational text. You know, when you get a gadget, you open it up and it says charge it overnight. I don't mind because that's the time I spend reading the entire instruction manual. I actually read the instructions. And I've open sourced my own interests. So anything I'm interested in, anything I'm curious about, I will find information, I will consume that information, and I'll make it my own. I'll tweak it, I'll change it. So that's who I am. Now, what does it feel like to step into my classroom? I live a model of what I want my students to do. And that's learning happens for everybody all the time. You're always learning something. You're either learning something good or maybe something not so good. Hopefully you're learning what I want you to learn, but you may be learning I'm not really all that attentive and you can goof off in the back of the room, but you're always learning and I'm always learning. I'm always trying new things. Mistakes are necessary. You can't learn without messing up, but you can't stop when you make a mistake. You need to continue. It's safe to question, to critique, and to reflect. In my classroom, you can raise your hand and say, I don't like this. I am not feeling this right now. I want to do something different. And I've actually had a student do that. And it was great because we completely shifted gears. We went another direction and the kids got re-engaged in the lesson. It was different. It was unique. And it's a safe place to do that. I want my kids to tell me. I want them to give me feedback, even if it's not what I want to hear. I also don't own the right to information. It's not teacher provided. I am not the sole source of information. And I'm not smarter than my students. I'm just very talented at information aggregation. Anyone who's not a nerd like me, who's not into computers, probably hasn't known the word aggregator. But that is a website or program that collects related items of content and displays them or links to them. So I don't create knowledge for my students. I lead my students to good sources of knowledge. I lead my students through the process of creating knowledge on their own. So I'm going to talk about grades in math class because this is really, I'm the most comfortable in math. So this is where I implement a lot of stuff. This is where I practice these exercises. So I teach grade 7 math in VHS in what they call the Infinity program. It's a one-to-one MacBook program. And I've got a few different things that I do with them. One is I do a learning checklist. So that is obviously a list of goals, a list of actions, things that I want the students to achieve. I do a daily math problem. Every day you come into my classroom, you log onto my website, you go onto the daily math problem. You do it every single day. It's live at 10 a.m. and it closes at 8 p.m. All my students know you have to do it. If you're sick, you still have to do it. If you're on a field trip, you still have to do it. If you have a hockey tournament and you're not going to be at school on Friday, you still have to do it. You have from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. every day. So the learning checklist, this is what it looks like. Right now, it's a list of concrete learning goals. Very easy to say, yes, I did this. No, I haven't yet. So Monday, you come in, daily math problem. Okay, I'll do the daily math problem. I'll check it off. Then the slides for Learning Log 3.4. They know they have to go to the website. They have to open up the slides. They have to read the slides. The student notes for Learning Log 3.4. They need to open up the student notes template in the Google Drive folder, make a copy for themselves, and fill out the student notes for Learning Log 3.4. These are very concrete, measurable objectives. This is where I start, but this is not the ultimate goal. What I want my students to do, and I don't know if they'll be able to do this by June. I have my fingers crossed that they will, and this is what I'm leading them towards. But it's a long process to get to the point where you can measure yourself against more abstract criteria, rather than complete these questions and get 5 correct in a row. Rather than asking them to do that, ask them to do something like master this concept. Be able to explain why minus a negative is the same thing as add a positive, rather than answer these 5 questions. This is where I'm starting with them, and we're going to gradually work up to that by getting things a little more abstract. They're not quite there yet. I'm not quite there yet either. I'm still going to practice. I'm going to learn on how I want them to get there, and we're going to start measuring our concrete goals against our more abstract goals, transition them into it smoothly. So I've described it. They have a list of tasks. It's self-directed. It's collaborative, or it could be independent. Sometimes I'll give them objects on the learning checklist, like ask a friend, ask somebody else to help with a question, or help somebody else with a question, and then write it in our class database of questions and answers. They haven't mastered a good answer. Right now I'm getting a lot of yes or no. What I would like them to do, and what we're working towards, is an explanation of the process. I'm all about process in our math class. What I want them to do, what the objective of the learning checklist itself is, rather than the tasks on the checklist, is that I want students to be able to take charge of their own learning. I want them to be able to direct what they learn and how they approach their learning. I want them to be self-starters in their math class, in their math education. So you come in and you know what to do. And actually, when the students come into my math class and the bell goes, generally I only have to remind a couple of them, you know what to do. And they do know what to do. They open up the computer and they get started. Evaluation of the learning checklist, I want to know if it's working. So what I do is I use tools like the daily math problem to check comprehension levels periodically, daily, in fact, of are they understanding these tasks. I also spend time working with them on situational problems. Khan Academy, which is one of the tools that we're using, will email me reports weekly, and it'll tell me a lot about what they're doing, what they've worked on, what they've mastered, and what they're having difficulty with. So, another nice thing that I'll mention quickly, we're not going to get into it too much, is that I can differentiate the learning checklists. I can take a handful of students who I've noticed are having a little bit more difficulty with the daily math, and I can give them an extra task. Tuesday, we're going to do this, and then I'm going to add one more thing in there, work with a small group with Mr. Peterson, and we're just going to talk about it. We're going to get together, maybe 8 kids, and the nice thing is all the other students know what they're supposed to be doing. They all know what to work on. They don't come up to me and say, I'm finished that, what do I do now? They always know. The daily math problem is a problem aligned with the curriculum. So if we're learning about integers, it's problems about integers. If we're learning about Cartesian plane, it's problems about the Cartesian plane. It's given at the start of class every day. Well, technically it's given at 10 a.m. every day because I never see them before 10:10, but they have the start of class to work on it, and I gauge the interest level. Sometimes I don't give them time at the start of class. Sometimes I stop them right away when they walk in the door and I give them a lesson, and then they go on to their checklist. But they know they have to do it, and I do give them time to work on it every day. What I want to achieve with that is assessment for learning. I want to check our understanding things. And it's also really handy for classroom management because they come in and they know what to do. They know, in fact, I get these stunned looks when I stop them from doing it. I say, just close your computers because I want to talk to you for a little while. And they look at me like, you're messing me up. You're changing things up, but I do that a lot. I change things up on them, so they're getting used to it. I use a script called Flubaroo to grade it, which is really nice because it means I can go through and I can check their answers very quickly. It's a formative assessment tool. I have 28 kids in my class. If I were using a pencil and paper to be correcting these, I would probably be up until 3 a.m. every day just trying to get through this. So the script really automates it a lot, and it gives me a lot of feedback. So I put together a 2-minute and 15-second video of the process that I go through to create a daily math problem. We'll see if my clicker works. I'll have to turn the sound on. Yeah, it's just music anyway. No, it's plugged into the smartboard.
Wire right there, plugged in right there, and plugged in.
Nope. There we go.
Oh, how cute.
It's royalty-free music as well. It's music anyway. There's some lag. This is actually royalty-free music, which somebody posted online. So he's given permission to put it in the YouTube video. Royalty-free music as well. I'll just put that down. What did I use? Yeah, I used QuickTime and then there's some yeah, this is actually royalty. Just contrast. So I create the form, and then I can actually embed it into my blog post. And the students will see the questions right underneath the problem, right underneath the scenario. So they don't flip back and forth. I put the daily problems in my blog, but I've actually embedded it into my Weebly site. The blog. The reason I do it like, it's kind of a roundabout solution, but the blog allows me to schedule it to come out at 10 a.m. every day. So it automatically shows up on my Weebly site.
I think it's better to volunteer.
Yeah. So what happens is the blog schedules 10 a.m. Monday. It's going to push out this problem. And then I use a script called form limiter to close it. I think my video hung up there. There's a whole lot more that should be working.
What do you use to push it?
I use Blogger. I'll show you. To get it into my website, this is what they see when they come to my class. So this is the daily math problem page of my class website. This is actually in Weebly because I just started sites this week. It will be in sites probably in the next month or so. But this is what they do. They come in, they open up my Weebly, they go to daily math problem. Now this question is about integers and it's talking about the Dead Sea. And I wanted to have them be able to see what the Dead Sea actually is. So I embedded a map into it, which is really nice because you can embed things in Blogger really easily. So they've got the Dead Sea there. They've got their integers problem. And then look, it's too late. I can't answer it because it's past Friday at 8 p.m. So when it's too late, you can't answer the questions anymore. Now, I can actually resume collecting responses, but I'm not going to because I don't think my kids are going to be doing math at 3:17 on a Saturday. So if I go to my Blogger, you'll actually be able to see. What do I use it? Why do I close it? Because I don't want the kids staying up late to work on it. And I don't want them going back and answering them later. It needs to be happening today because I'm using it to guide what I'm doing tomorrow. And if they don't answer it, they don't answer it. It's basically part of their homework grade. I don't use the result as the homework grade. It's basically a complete or incomplete. I get a fairly high number of responses. I get between 80 to 95% response rate, depending on the day. If there's a lot of stuff on the learning checklist for today, chances are I won't get quite as many responses. So if I go to my daily math problem blog, I can look at the list, and here I've got, oh, look at that, I'm actually ahead of the game. I got Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday ready to go. That usually doesn't happen. Usually that's Sunday night that I get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday ready to go. But if you want to see...
You keep them all somewhere?
Yes.
You can just, after you have...
Exactly. I can actually go back and repost them. And another reason why I use Blogger is that if you're following Panorama Math and you're aligned to the same curriculum, you can actually use exactly the same problem, exactly the same form, and in fact just put all of this stuff that I'm doing into your website. And in the next week or so, I'm going to put together a video on how I use a spreadsheet to grade it and use a VLOOKUP command to sort out the grades. And the really nice thing is I don't have to go in and pick out who answered what. And a happy byproduct of that is that if I have several thousand students answering it, it's still exactly the same amount of work for me. So this is something that I'm already doing. If you want to do it, you don't have to go through every single step because I'm happy to share it with you. So you can put this into your website. You can have the responses and just use the same script, VLOOKUP, and you'll have your answers as well. So there's actually a video on my open source teaching that shows how I embedded it into, let me see if I can find it here. I think I posted that in October. Here we go. I did a first a text-based tutorial, and then one of my colleagues said, you know, that's great, I love it, but can you help me out and give me a video as well? So I've got a video, and then there's also a text one, and they're both on my blog.
Would D2L allow you to start learning all of that area?
Pardon me?
Would desire to learn be able to?
With desire to learn, be able, I'm not familiar with desire to learn.
It's in Ontario.
Okay. Okay, so if it integrates with Google Drive, then it won't be a problem. I like what you just said there. I'm going to come back to that at the end. Okay, another thing that I do a lot with my students is small group work, because we've got a chance to focus on different areas. They've all got an idea of what it is they're supposed to be doing. Collaboration is a big part of it. It's not the only part of it, and I can make them work independently. But when I give them time to work in small groups, I walk around, I stop, I ask guiding questions, and one of the things I do is I listen to conversations that are happening over there. And I will check to see, what are they talking about? My students, when they're working in small groups, the volume goes pretty high. But when I listen carefully, I can hear that they're arguing about math. where they're talking about math, or sometimes I get them and they're off task. And I have one student who tends to drift off task pretty easily. And last week, he was standing on a friend's desk like this. And the really nice thing about the learning checklist and the way the classroom works is I went and I stood right next to him like this, and I said, "What's going on?" He said, "Oh, I know what I'm supposed to be doing," and he went and he started working. And this is a boy who has trouble staying on task, but he knows where to go in order to find the task. He knows what's expected, and it makes managing that kind of behavior really easy because I don't actually have to come down on him. He needs a gentle reminder, and he goes back in. So small group work, students co-learning to solidify understanding of concepts through collaboration on given tasks. That's the same thing whether they're working with a pencil and paper or whether they're working on the computers. I allow either one. I actually had two students who were collaborating. One was sitting in the front, one was sitting midway in the class, in between the front and the back, and they were working together through FaceTime. And I thought, hey, why not? You know, they've got their headphones on so they can hear one another. They're working together, and that was fine with me. I thought that was really neat. What I want them to do is I want them to work together to talk about math, to question each other, to figure out things together so that they can understand the concepts, the actual meaning of math that we're doing, and they have to talk about it. So how do I evaluate their group work? Well, I go through the class. I monitor their conversations on the slide, so I listen to a conversation over here while I'm looking over there. All the class management stuff, you guys are already doing the same thing. So there's a few different learning contexts in my class. There's one-to-many, which I still do. I think they're sitting down and I'm talking to them. And that's fine. We have to do that sometimes. I don't generally start with that. I don't generally introduce a concept with that. Usually that'll happen on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And they've already been exposed. They've already been trying it. And now I'm going to talk to them about it. So we can reference some things they've already heard, they've already seen, they've already tried. There's also one-to-few. So it's me, it's my group of a handful of students, and we're up here at the whiteboard, and we're talking about math, and they're holding the markers, and they're piping up. And I get the kids who don't generally raise their hand, giving answers, asking questions, arguing with each other. And one of the things we do is we stand. We don't sit, they don't sit, I stand. We all stand together because we're all doing math together. And I'm very much I have to do math like this. I need my space. And I think they like it too. You know, I find it easier, and I would assume not all of my students, but I think some of them find it easier to have that freedom to do math here and then write something over there and then write something there. So give them space. And while I'm doing that, I've got other groups of students who are working together, and they're thinking too, and they're working together as well. And maybe they're working on the blackboard over there. Maybe I'm hoping I'm going to find some of those big pads of paper because I really like to have some of those in the back of the room because I want to use those too. But those are cool. That's an objective of mine. Yeah, that would be cool. And then there's one-to-one. I like this one. This is the work with a partner, and they're there, and there's two of them, and they're thinking, and they're talking, and they're coming up with ideas, and I'm walking around, and that's what I'm doing. I like that. It's fun. Sometimes I make the groups myself. Generally, I let them choose, and I know which groups work well together and which groups need some reminders of what to do. So I use a lot of formative assessment in math because I want to check, do they understand the concepts? I've told parents this, I've told students this. I don't want them to memorize things. I want them to understand things because I'm terrible at memorizing math. I forget stuff. Okay, I still know the quadratic formula, but only because when I've done it on tests enough, I've actually sat down and realized, okay, I forgot, I panicked, completely blank, but I know how to get to it. That's what I want my students to know. That's where knowledge comes from. It's not good to memorize. Memorization isn't the aspect it used to be. Everyone's walking around with a dictionary in their pocket, with Google in their pocket. Memorizing stuff isn't as important as it used to be. Thinking critically about it, understanding the process, and knowing how to apply it is what these kids will need to do for the rest of their lives. I want to target specific areas of learning through differentiation. So I want some of my students to teach other students. I want them to understand the concept, to build it up strong, and then be able to explain it, be able to handle questions. I want students who are having a little bit of trouble with it to spend more time with me, or spend more time on Khan Academy, or spend more time working one-on-one with a learning partner to solidify these concepts. And the digital tools allow me to do that. I don't have to go to the photocopier and have 5 different documents that I'm working with. I've got one master. I can tweak it here and there. I can tag them for different groups. And the tools let me actually do that. So my objectives, my second one is to have students build support networks for one another. I don't want to be the be-all and end-all of help in math class. I want them to connect with people, because that's the power of the internet. It's not what you can find, it's who you can connect with. And I've actually seen a lot of positive stuff with that. At the start of the year, I got them all in Edmodo, and I saw a lot of silly behavior. I saw 50 smileys in a row from one student. So I talked to them, and this was digital citizenship. But I talked to them honestly, and I said to them, you know, I have Edmodo on my phone, and I have Edmodo on my tablet. And every time you send me a message, it beeps. And I check it. Because when you're sending me a message on Edmodo, it means you have a question, and I want to answer it. So when I get 50 beeps in a row, and the 51st beep is a question, probably not going to answer it as quickly as I would have. And actually that little talk, that little pointing out that what I'm doing and what they're doing, we're all connected and it influences one another, it changed the behavior. It changed the whole environment online, and now I'm seeing things not just about math class. I also teach these kids English, not just about English class, but I see things like, when is the French dictée? What do we do for our science project? It's become a place where they can actually connect and create information, collaborate, and share. So they don't look at it as, oh, this is for Mr. Peterson's math class. It's the connections we've made. So they know it's a powerful tool. And that's what I want them to think of when they think of using technology. So how do I evaluate whether or not I've actually achieved these objectives? Well, to target specific areas of learning, I work with students until they get it. And it's not until they're able to answer it. I had one kid last year who said to me one of the greatest things I've ever heard, and I thought my response was okay, but he said to me, oh, I feel so stupid now because it's so simple. And I said to him, no, it's not so simple. So you shouldn't feel stupid. You should feel smart because it's complicated. But just that moment where that sentence came out and it was that light bulb moment, that's what I want to work with students. And using this sort of format gives me the opportunity to talk to them, to connect with them on a personal level, and to frame things in a way that makes sense to them. And I also try to have students explain their learning to ensure understanding. And again, I'm doing that with situational problems. I'm doing that when I'm talking with them. I'm doing that when I ask them to explain it to one another. And I'm doing that when I'm listening to what they're talking about. So I'm trying to keep on top of them to make sure that they get it. Because to me, solving problems is great. Telling me how you solve the problem, you have to do that. If you don't do that, I haven't done my job yet. So, I don't know if you're familiar with this. This is one of my favorite images of Bloom's taxonomy. This is called Bloom's Rose. It's on Wikimedia Commons, which is nice because I'm allowed to use it in this. And it's also because my daughter's name is Rose. But knowledge, the basic level, right? Memorization, select, list, name, define, describe, memorize. Okay, don't get me wrong, this is important. I ask my students to define. I make sure that they write down the definitions for important terms. But this is the starting point. This is not where I want them to end up. Match, restate, rephrase, rewrite, give examples. That's things they're doing in small groups. That's things they're doing one-on-one, working with a partner rather than working individually. So we go up, organize, generalize, starting to get a little more abstract. I still want them to be able to do this stuff. Compare, analyze, classify, point out. This comes from collaboration. This doesn't come from working in isolation and waiting to find out if you're right or not. Compose, originate, hypothesize, develop, design, construct, all these big keywords, these big ideas. I'm not there yet. These are my objectives. This is where I'm shooting for. Raise your hand if you're familiar with the SAMR model. Substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. This is the model of technology integration into education. And it was developed by Dr. Ruben Fuentedura. And he's actually very friendly in that he open sources a lot of his stuff. So he made this fantastic visual, and I'm allowed to use it because it's open source, which I really like. I don't know if you haven't noticed yet, I really like that stuff. So substitution, tech acts as a direct tool substitute with no functional change. That's okay. You can do that, but there's more to it. Tech acts as a direct tool substitute with functional improvement. So changing things like when I'm using the smartboard for writing math and I run out of space and I just hit extend page, that's augmentation, right? I can't extend this anymore, but it's not changing what I'm doing. It's still a whiteboard. It just happens to be a more flexible solution for using a whiteboard. And then there's modification, significant task redesign. So changing the way students are completing these tasks, changing what it means to do a task. And then what I'm shooting for, what I really want to achieve, is redefinition. So the creation of new tasks previously inconceivable. I'm not there yet. I'm still in modification. But some of the things you can do when you're redefining. Use Wevideo, which is a Google app, so it works in Chrome. Create an instructional video and overlay it on a physical representation of the problem using Redefine. So you can have a problem on the wall. Here's a differential equation. Okay, my grade 7s aren't doing differential equations, but that's something that I would like to have because sometimes I would like to know how to solve that differential equation. Yeah.
What is Wevideo useful?
Wevideo is a video editor, and it actually is completely browser-based.
Okay.
So I use iMovie, but I'm not going to use iMovie because I have 27 kids with MacBooks, and I have one kid who I wanted to be in the one-to-one program so badly because he's technological. He was very much having trouble with the social aspect of high school. He would come in, he would put his head down on the desk, and he would shut down for the entire class. That was his mechanism. That was his coping mechanism with how things were going. So he doesn't have a MacBook. He does have a PC laptop. And I wanted him to be able to use that technology, and I'm already doing everything on Google Drive, and I like Google Drive because it's platform independent. You don't need to be on a MacBook. MacBooks are great, I love it, but you don't need it. I can go home and open up my PC and do a little work there, and then I can do some on Linux, and I can do some on my Android phone. It's not specific to that, and that's why I'm trying Wevideo. I haven't used Wevideo to completion yet. This is an experiment. I'm waiting to see what my kids are going to tell me about it. Yeah, I'm going to show them Erasmus. So I want them to start playing with it, but I'm not telling them what Erasmus is yet. This is. Uh-oh, I probably shouldn't have told them that on the live cast. Okay, well, if any of my students who are actually watching this, you can figure out what's coming up. Students can contribute to and build a problem and solution bank, share the entire class using a Google Drive folder. So they've got a folder called Math Edit. Anything and everything that's in there, everybody can access, everybody can change. So I want them to build up this database of questions and answers, because I get the same question a few times, or several times, or repeatedly. I want them to have a place to go in order to look for the answer. And the nice thing is, problems can, and they do, show up as a data math problem. So I will take some of the work that students have done, and I will bring it back. I will bring it to the rest of the class. And the really cool thing is that without telling them, they know somebody wrote this problem. They say, who wrote this problem? Who came up with this? Usually it's because they choose names like Billy Bob. But you know what? It's authentic. It makes them actually care about what they're doing because they know this is going to reach my peers. This is going to come back into it. And another objective that I have, we haven't gotten there yet, but I want them to use MoveNote to actually create an explanation and take other students through it. So to create a concept, to bring this math across. And this is going to tie in really nicely with my English class, which I also teach them so that I can link the two things together. But creating a presentation, delivering information in an informational text, whether it's digital or written, that's part of it. That's part of what I want them to do. MoveNote is a way to video annotate a presentation. So you can present something, and at the same time, you've got like a nice little window up in the corner, and they can see your face talking, and you can add notes to it. You can circle things. So it's really dynamic. It's a lot more, it's kind of like what I'm doing right now, but recorded for posterity. It's a Chrome app as well. So you go to the Chrome Web Store, and you can download, you can install it there. And MoveNote. Yeah. And Wevideo and MoveNote are both free. I tend to stay away from paid apps, not because I have anything against paying for things, but because I experiment. I'm trying, and if something doesn't work, I don't like the feeling of I've wasted money or I'm obliged to sort of use this because I've paid for it and I don't want to just flush that money down the toilet. So I like to try free things because if I try a free thing and it's not quite what I want, I can move on. It's no big deal. I don't mind. And I have tried a lot of free things and I didn't like them and I moved on. So what apps? I've talked about a couple. The big one is Google Drive. That's my hub. That's really where all the puzzle pieces come together. But it's not just Google Drive. I use Weebly for my website. I will be migrating over to sites. But right now, I like Weebly because it's simple, it's easy to set up, and my students already know my Weebly site address. So I take things from Google Drive and I publish them to Weebly. All the math notes get published to my Weebly. Actually, all the notes for history and geography get published to my Weebly as well. I also use Blogger. That's what I use, yeah. You can. The nice thing is, I don't upload anything to Weebly. I link from Weebly to my Google Drive. So everything that's on my Weebly isn't actually in my Weebly account. It's all hot linked to either publishing, like a presentation, or sharing documents. So all of that stuff doesn't count towards my Weebly, and because it's all Google Drive format, it doesn't count towards my Google Drive either. It's all up there in the cloud, and I've used, I think, 0.15% of my Google Drive storage, and most of that's email. Google Drive is really nice because anything that's in a Google format, so a Google Doc, a Google Slide, a Google Sheet, a Google Form, none of that counts towards your data limit. So you've got a limit. We have 30 gigs at the Pearson board. If you have PDFs or Word files or PowerPoints, those take up space. But anything that's converted to Google format, and you can do that when you upload it, you can convert them to Google format, they don't take up space. And using things like, I like to put videos into my history notes, but I don't actually download the video and then insert it as a video. I can just embed the YouTube video in very easily. And it doesn't take a long time to open because it doesn't have to upload all this stuff or download all this stuff or try and process through. So if I want to make a quick change, it's actually pretty quick to open it up, change what I want to change. Go ahead. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can still share those using the same sharing permissions, because you can apply sharing permissions to any object in your Google Drive. So basically, you can click on share, you share it to anyone with the link, and then you paste that in as a link on your Weebly site. So as soon as they click it, it'll take them and they can download it from there. So I use Blogger, and I go from Google Drive, I take my form and put it into a Blogger post, and then I schedule the Blogger post. So inside the post is the form, and then I take Blogger and I stick that blog into my Weebly site. So rather than have my students go to my blog and then go to a form, they go to Weebly. They go to my website, because the first thing that I tell them when they say, where can I find? I don't even wait for the rest of the sentence. I say, have you checked the website? Because everything that I create for them, with the exclusion of tests, everything else is always on my Weebly site. It's always up on my website so they can find it. I use Edmodo with the class, and I can send them links to my Google Drive stuff from there. They can link as well. Edmodo is like an online closed network similar to Facebook. And then there's MoveNote, which would also go back into my Weebly site, and Wevideo, just MoveNote. Yep.
Just a question. Earlier, you said that you would for example, your website where the kids will get the document, create a copy for themselves.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you use scripts to send it off for the
I haven't gotten there yet. I do use scripts. I'm all about scripts. So what is a script? Oops. A script is, this is the jargon, a script is a way to automate the repeated drudge tasks. So going to the photocopy machine and making 55 double-sided copies that are hole punched and stapled. A script is a way to automate checking answers. Anything that you can do repeatedly, a script can probably do more easily for you. And I use a few scripts all the time. The first one is called G-class folders. What that does is that sets up every kid in your class with a folder structure. So you've got, I have my math class, and I put in student's first name, their last name, and their email address, and that I'm their teacher. And it will go through and it will create one folder called Math Edit, where anyone can edit whatever's in that folder. It will create one folder called Math View, where all my students can look at what's in that folder, but they can't change it until they make a copy into their own drive. It'll make an assignment folder for each of my students and share it with them in their drive, and it puts it all into one spot on my drive. So I can go to my drive and I can click on where are all my math assignments folders, and I can look at what all my students have in their assignment folder. It also has a math teacher folder, which is just for my own personal use, and that's where I put all the stuff that I'm going to wow them with soon, but not yet. Another script I use is called Doctopus. And I love Doctopus because it integrates incredibly well with G-class folders. So G-class folders, at the start of the year, I put in a roster, and it created all of these folders and everything. And it also put in what's called the folder key, and that's how Google identifies folders, by a key. And it's this long, I think it's 36 characters long, just gobbledygook. But if you tell Doctopus what the folder keys are, it will make a copy of the document and it will put it in the student's assignment folder. And the nice thing is, I don't have to tell Doctopus what the student folder keys are because G-class folders does it for me. So what I do is I open up my G-class hub URL, which is a web page that I've bookmarked. I select my math class, and I say create a new Doctopus. And it will open up a new spreadsheet, and it will run the script, and it will say to me, okay, what document do you want to share with these students? and I can choose the document. And it can say, if I say, well, I don't want to do the same document for everybody. I want to do document A for these students. I want to do document B that asks these students to come and work with me a little bit more. And I want to do document C that asks these students to teach this concept to these kids a little bit more. And I can differentiate. And it will generate the document. It will put it in that student's folder. And it will also put it into one place on my drive. And the really nice thing about this is I own that document. Students have rights, they can edit it, they can change it, they can move it around, but they can't ever make it disappear from my drive because I own it. They can delete it from their drive all they want. It can't ever disappear because it's mine. I'm the only one who has control over that. So Doctopus is great because it's sort of like a virtual copy machine. Send out documents. You can also close documents. So checklist is over. I want to evaluate it. I can close it. I can change their permissions back to view only. So now I can check and I can see what have they achieved. What have they said they've achieved? Did they check off all the Khan Academy activities but not actually do anything? So if I see something like that happening, I'm going to check what else they're working on. And Gubrick is the third script, which is actually an extension for Chrome. And it works really well with Doctopus. Because Doctopus, once you've set out this document, you can attach a rubric. And the rubric, you set up a spreadsheet, and you've got your criteria on the left, and your columns on the top are your levels of proficiency. And you can attach that rubric to the Doctopus document. You open up each student's document, and there's that little eyeball in the top right-hand side of your Omnibox. You click on it. It says it's looking for the associated rubric. It'll go through, it'll find the rubric, and you score it directly in the rubric, and then you put in your comments, and you click Submit and Paste the document. It will put the rubric into the document along with your comments, and it will create a line in the spreadsheet with the rubric scores, which I really like because I use a spreadsheet for my gradebook, so I can just import the range into my gradebook.
But I did the research that I don't know if you know, that it's a kind of language where you're like prevent people if they try to use it. It doesn't allow you to insert the rubric. Like you read the rubric, but then when you want to insert the rubric,
I haven't heard that. That's very interesting to know because it's interesting to know because I know there is a lot of language support for Doctopus, but I guess not for Gubrick yet. Are you a part of the Google Plus community? Okay, so you can post to that and ask them. Excellent. That's another thing that I love about the Google Scripts and the Google Apps. There are Google communities where you can ask the internet to solve a problem. It's sort of like open sourcing your problem. You're crowdsourcing it. You're asking for everyone to help you with a problem. Yesterday afternoon, myself and Chris Webb, we were thinking of doing a very specific thing with a spreadsheet, which if you want to, you can ask him about. And I wanted to know if anybody had been able to do it. So I asked the Google Plus community, and I got 2 responses within a minute of really good links to other things that people had done. So there's a lot of power in it, and it's not in the information you can find. It's the people with whom you connect. So it's all about what my math class is like, but what's the goal of all this? I want students to have independence, voice, and self-direction. Not in math class, in life. That's what I want for them. I want them to develop an understanding of the process of learning. If you can learn math, that's great. If you know how to learn, you're set. There's a big difference to me. It took me a long time to learn how I learned best. I want my students to do that. I want to build interested, motivated learners who are interested in learning. I want them to think about knowledge as something they can get. I want them to find out. I want them to ask good questions. And a big part of student voice is asking them what their opinion is. So Just show me with your fingers. Think back to your high school. On a scale of 1 to 5, how high would you rate your enjoyment? Did you enjoy math? 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. I like math a lot. Okay, it looks like we've got a lot of other, I won't call you nerds or geeks, but a lot of like-minded people. That is the breakdown of how my students enjoy math class. There are 3s and there are 5s. That's what I like. I had one parent come in and talk to me during parent-teacher interviews, and he said, my daughter has said to me, I like math class, and she'd never said that before. And to me, that's a big deal. That really, like, that's the kind of thing that makes my money. So, what did they say about what we're doing in math class? Well, one student said, it keeps me organized and I'm learning a lot. And if you notice, I didn't change any of what he wrote. It's still a learning side, because these are actual responses my students gave me. Well, I was enjoying when we had like little teachers where one of your peers would like teach you something. Again, no editing. Okay, so these are the good comments, but it's not all good. I find the little groups with Mr. Peterson doesn't really affect me. I don't like that way. I don't know why. You know what? I don't like that way. It makes me happy. Because it's showing self-awareness. It's showing metacognition. It's showing that he's thinking about the process of learning. He's not just thinking about math. And then there's, I don't like it how sometimes in class we have a whole class lesson the whole period. Yeah, I don't either. But they're willing to put their name, they had to actually put their name attached to these responses. They told me this stuff. They told me genuinely what they thought, because it's a safe place. They know I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to come down on them for telling me, honestly, I don't like it when you work with me in a small group. It doesn't do anything for me. You know what? That's okay. We all like different things. So for me, it's about more than just Google Apps for Education. I love Google Apps for Education, but there's a bigger picture. And it's about how nicely Google Apps for Education plays with others. Google Apps is great, but what it can do is so much more than what Google has made it do. It plays with others to support pedagogy, to facilitate learning and collaboration, to provide different pathways to learning, and to optimize teacher time, which I really like. Because it's not that I get to spend less time doing things, it's just I get to spend my time doing things that are more creative, more interesting, more fun. I get time to experiment, to practice, to try new things, because I'm not bogged down in grading 28 daily math problems every day. If I had to do that, I would do a daily math problem. There's no way, because it would just be way too much. It would be too much of a stress for me. But right now, daily math problems take me about maybe 5 minutes to set up and about 30 seconds to a minute to evaluate. So if I look at it, 6 minutes a day I'm spending in order to get some real data that can really guide my teaching, guides what I'm doing in the classroom. So if you haven't yet, get on Twitter. Because this whole idea, this whole redefinition of the classroom was sparked from, and I would love to know who it was, but I've forgotten and I can't find it in my Twitter feed, but it was sparked by one post on Twitter. Instead of giving your students tasks, give them a learning checklist of objectives. And I thought, why not? Why shouldn't I do that? So I started, and I tried it. And the first week, it was kind of a disaster. So I changed it. And the second week, it was better. So I changed it again. And I keep changing it. It's evolving. It's changing. It's a living thing. I don't stick with it. I'm not going to come back to this next year and say, okay, first week of September, this is what I did. I'm going to look at it and say, this is what I did. Here's how I'm going to change it to make it a little bit better. I really enjoy that. I like it. Canadian Ed Chat is a Twitter chat every Monday at 8 p.m. And you can find really cool people to follow. I'm now a moderator of Canadian Ed Chat, which I'm really happy about. But basically, there's a topic every week, and you get together, and you will meet some of the most interesting and creative and intelligent people out there. You won't get pictures of what people are having for supper. So get on Twitter. And if you don't, that's okay. My brother, who had that great resource, I can't get him on Twitter. So hopefully you get on Twitter. Second one, follow blogs. There's one called Free Technology for Teachers, which I love. I follow, I think it's over 100 blogs. And I don't go on and I check every single day. What I do is what you see everybody doing. You're in the cash at Walmart, you're waiting because there's a huge lineup, and there's that person who's got to get the price checked to make sure that it's actually 98 cents, not 99 cents. I have this out, and I'm doing professional development. I'm learning, I'm trying new things. Free Technology for Teachers. Richard Byrne, R-M-B-Y-R-N-E on Twitter. Very, very prolific publisher of very high quality stuff. And keep learning. Don't just sort of relax and take what I've done here and use it as a model. Try it, experiment, make mistakes, learn from them, make mistakes in front of your students, because I do all the time. But the nice thing is, I do it and I say, no, I messed up, that's wrong. So it makes it safe for them to do it. They see things like that. And then you can follow me on Twitter. That's a little plug, follow me on Twitter. But I tweet out things like, if you're not going to follow blogs, that's fine. Because I tweet out good blog posts. I don't tweet out the lousy ones. And I also blog at openlessons.blogspot.ca. And I post a lot of what I'm doing, a lot of how I did it, and a lot of what I want my students to be able to do. I post those things online. So that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed it. And I was actually really nervous about this because I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but I really enjoyed it. So thanks so much. Yay! All right, I'll hang that up. Thank you.